Hello, friends, welcome. Let me share my thoughts on the scope of yogas in Krishnamurti Paddhati. Now, as a KP enthusiast, you must have noticed the lack of yogas in Krishnamurti Paddhati. Unlike in Parashari system, where you find hundreds of yogas, Professor K.S. Krishnamurti didn't take much interest in making use of those yogas in the KP framework. In fact, Professor has pointed out the weakness of the traditional yogas and why they don't seem to work or why they don't seem to give the result promised by the yogas. So, so what is a yoga? So we can say that yoga is a combination of rashi, planet, and bhav to form a spatial pattern that indicates a certain event in a person's horoscope. We'll take up this particular horoscope in a while, but let's first look at the scope of yogas in the Krishnamurti framework. Now, one of the most important thing that I notice while delving into the yogas or the scope of yogas in Krishnamurti Paddhati is the use of the bhav. This is a this I would say is a very integral part of any yoga within Krishnamurti Paddhati. If at all you want to experiment with the yogas in Krishnamurti Paddhati, then you can't possibly ignore the bhav. And when I say bhav, then it means the bhav as per the KP Kaspa chart. So that's one of the most important things that you have to keep in mind, that the bhav of the Kaspa chart has to be used in the Krishnamurti Paddhati framework. Now, for this reason, many of the traditional yogas which we find in like Bhrigunandi Nadi or Navtara, those yogas cannot be ported to Krishnamurti Paddhati. I created some videos on the Bhrigunandi Nadi and the KP framework and also the scope of the Navtara Chakra. You can watch these videos. And the yogas or the rules mentioned in the Bhrigunandi Nadi, many rules look very fascinating, but they are independent of the horoscope. And for this reason, they actually don't seem to work. But if you watch these two videos, you will have a fairly good idea that why the rules or the so-called the yogas mentioned in the Bhrigunandi Nadi or the Navtara Chakra or even other similar kind of Paddhati, they will not work within the Krishnamurti Paddhati. You have to make use of uh, the bhav in the Krishnamurti Paddhati if you have to work on the yoga. Now, in KP, the one of the thing about the yoga should be that it should be very, whatever it is promising, it has to state that thing very clearly and forcefully, that what the result of this rashi, planet, and bhav is indicating. For example, let's take the marriage. Now, when you are looking at a horoscope, then the yoga related to the marriage should be, and the yoga could be a positive one, indicating a positive result, or it could even indicate a negative result. So in a horoscope, if you come across a yoga, or if you know about a yoga, that 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 clearly indicate that no, you will not have an early marriage. No, you will have an intercaste. No, you will not have an intercaste marriage. No, you will never have a divorce. Right. So these kind of I would say a black and white kind of a rule regarding any specific event in a person's life. That is what a yoga is all about. Similarly, when you're looking at the positive side of the yoga, and let's say the marriage, and we are talking about the marriage, then we say that yes, you will not have an early marriage, you will have an intercaste. Uh, you will have an intercaste marriage, and yes, you will have a divorce as well. You will get divorced. So these are very uh, straightforward kind of the result. And now in Krishnamurti Paddhati, this particular role of giving a yes or no, black and white kind of categorical kind of answer has been given to the Gospels of Lord. So if you are looking at, let's say, marriage, then the seventh Gospel of Lord, if it is a significator of the seventh house, it promises marriage. If it is a significator of the detrimental or the negative house for marriage, like 1, 6, and 10, then the marriage is not promised. And if it indicates both, then the marriage and the separation both are promised. Now, theoretically, this looks very nice and very logical. That is what the Professor Krishnamurti's framework is all about. And his presentation is very logical, and that the Gospels of Lord has to be looked into, finding out whether an event is promised or not. But the thing is that the Gospels of Lord in the birth horoscope, and I'm not talking about the horary. In the horary chart, you must make use of the Gospels of Lord. I'm here talking only about the birth horoscope. So the Gospels of Lord, they don't seem to work in the birth horoscope. And I created one video indicating about the reliability of the Gospels of Lord in the birth horoscope in Krishnamurti Paddhati. And in some of my other videos, now and then, I have been pointing out this particular thing, that you can't possibly rely on the Gospels of Lord in the birth horoscope within the Krishnamurti Paddhati. We will see that the Gospels of Lord rule actually doesn't even work in this example chart, which we are going to discuss in a while. So and now, what are the reasons? One reason is that you need to have very precise birth particulars, and because the Gospels of Lords are very sensitive to the time of birth and even the latitude and longitude of a place. So that's one of the reasons. Second is that in the birth horoscope, every house has to indicate so many different stuff that the one particular Gospels of Lords kind of gets overburdened with too many rules. So for this reason, sometimes there is a confusion whether the Gospels of Lord might be indicating this particular specific result in a person's horoscope, or it might be something else. For example, the Gospels of Lord of the 12th, Rahu. Now, in the horary, if somebody has this question whether he or she will go abroad and may settle down abroad, and if the Gospels of Lord of the 12th cusp is Rahu, then in the horary the answer is yes. Similarly, in the horary, if the question is that whether somebody might have some kind of inquiry from the government, or one might land into a jail because of some cases against him or her by the government, then also the Kaspal sublord of the 12th has to be Rahu. Now, in the birth horoscope, if a person has a Kaspal sublord Rahu as the 12th Kaspal sublord, then you can't possibly distinguish. Then you have to say, okay, both the things are going to happen in a person chart. That's the first thing. And on top of it, many horoscopes you will see that none of these things happen. The person is not even able to go abroad, and he has nothing to do with any government inquiry. So it seems to me that the role of the Kaspal sublord is not as precise as it is in KP horary. I always recommend that whenever you are doing KP horary, you must make use of the Kaspal sublord. But when it comes to the birth horoscope, then I have very serious doubts, and many times I have gotten into embarrassing situation because I relied on the Kaspal sublord. So now I don't pay much attention to the Kaspal sublord. So the next question is that what happens to the scope of yogas in Krishnamurti Paddhati if the Kaspal sublords are not taken into the account in a birth horoscope. So then it obviously means that you have to rely on the Kaspa chart and the planet signification. These are the only tools that you have. And you have to expand your vision, and you have to experiment a little bit to see if some of these yogas or the patterns could emerge by just using the Kaspa chart and the planet signification table. So when I started doing some experiment, I realized that the fixation on these numbers, the KP community, the KP users are too invested or too embedded into these numbers alone. But you have to start looking at these numbers and these patterns in a little bit innovative way. So I'm going to discuss 3 rules that are not dependent on the Kaspal sublord, and we are talking about the birth horoscope, and these 3 rules will work. They deliver results. This you can call as a yoga in the Krishnamurti Paddhati. The first rule that I noticed was the third and the ninth. Now, if the third and the ninth cusp, if they are ruled by Mercury and Jupiter, and on top of it, if Jupiter and Mercury, they are deposited in the star or sub of Jupiter and Mercury, then this creates a very special rule where a person is very much interested in philosophy, religion, and even astrology. I have seen in many charts where people are deeply interested in astrology, that this particular rule works. The third and the ninth cusp. Now you might think that if somebody's ascendant is, let's say, Taurus, then the third cusp might not be ruled by Mercury. But if you look at the intercepted cusp, when you look at the intercepted cusp, then there is always a chance that the third cusp might be ruled by Mercury or Jupiter. When I was discussing this particular rule or my finding, I would say, with one of my friends, he himself is a reasonably good KP astrologer, and then he pointed out that in his own horoscope, this particular rule doesn't appear. So I told him that the presence of this rule, the presence of this particular rule is almost a certain guarantee that a person will be interested, very much interested in philosophy, religion, and even astrology. And this person will find a place in the public domain, maybe as a writer, or maybe by becoming very active on the social media platform like YouTube. So when you notice this particular combination in a person's horoscope, you can say for sure that this is going to happen. But if you don't find this combination, it doesn't mean that that particular person cannot be interested in philosophy or religion, or be into astrology. The idea is this is just one of the many, or let's say one of the five rules. And what are the four other rules that could make a person very much interested in philosophy or astrology? That I don't know. But this one particular rule that I notice works pretty well. So, and this is not dependent on the cuspal sublord, and this is just dependent on the bhav chart, and the position of the Jupiter and Mercury. So this this particular observation, this made me very confident that if we start looking at the bhav chart and the patterns, not just the numbers, the patterns in the planet signification table, then some more rules can be derived within the Krishnamurti Paddhati. See, right now, I don't know, people might be doing some experiment on these lines, but most of the videos I find is they are very, I would say, a stereotype pattern, that there is a cusp chart or there is a planet signification table, and then those numbers are discussed. Nobody goes, beyond those numbers. So KP community must start experimenting on the yogas just based on the bhav chart and the signification. Now, another rule that Professor Krishnamurti has mentioned in one of his books is about the proximity of Neptune to the seventh cusp. So, if the Neptune is very near on the seventh cusp, about maybe 3 degree or 3 degree 20 minutes, then there is some kind of a deception at the time of marriage. Professor has mentioned a couple of stories that how this particular combination, the proximity of Neptune on the seventh cusp, results in a deception. When the marriage is about to happen, all the ceremonies are about to happen. Just before that, there is some kind of a scandal or some kind of a drama that gets unfolded in the form of some kind of a deception. It might be from either party, it might be from the bride or the groom side, but the marriage is broken on account of this. So this is one of the very interesting rule. Now the thing is that if suppose the Neptune is not on the seventh cusp at all, it doesn't mean that deception cannot happen. So my idea of saying this is that this is just one of the maybe a few other 4 or 5 other rules. I don't know about the other rules, but this could be one of the rules or one of the yogas that can be made use of. Similarly, there is one finding related to Mars and Venus. So I would not discuss about the result of what this particular combination, Mars and Venus, definitely it gives an indication in a person's horoscope. But I'm not going to discuss this here, because then sometimes these kind of thing becomes a tool for character assassination. But Mars and Mars and Venus in a specific combination in the bhav chart, it does indicate some some kind of inclination towards orientation towards something in a person's chart. So these are three things that I mentioned about which I would almost say that these are kind of yogas in Krishnamurti Paddhati. There are others, but I want to just keep this video brief and encourage the KP community to look into the some specific patterns in the within the KP framework. Now let's look at this particular horoscope. If you look at this horoscope, then uh, what is there something very special, something very outstanding that you can notice about this particular horoscope? Now, within the KP framework, uh, the the emphasis on the 10th house or the 11th house, 6th house is too much. I would say just too much when it comes to uh, for a person to become successful in life. But in this horoscope, you will not find the 2, 6, and 10, those kind of a thing. They are not very prominent in this particular horoscope. So you might say that this is a fairly average kind of a horoscope. But if I say that that can you say that this particular person will be interested in some creative field, then you might start looking at this horoscope from close quarters. And obviously, when it comes to the creativity, then you will start looking at the the prominence of the fifth house. And if you look at the how these all these planets, they have something to do with the fifth house, right from the Ketu, Venus, every single planet in this signification table has something to do with the fifth house. So now you can be a little sure that yes, there is a focus and quite a bit focus on the fifth house. But if somebody doesn't mention about the creative side, then you might think that fifth house could be for fifth house could represent so many things. It could be sports, it could be entertainment, and it could be film industry. It could be some other creative pursuit. It could be betting, speculation. So uh, this to distinguish between all these things, then you have to stretch your imagination. But if a person is keen and has this specific question, this is very important that this specific question is coming to you about a person's creativity, then you can say, yeah, that this house is quite strong in terms of being exhibiting some kind of a creativity. And then on top of it, since Taurus, you have the Taurus ascendant, which is ruled by Venus. So you can extend your argument and you can say that on this person could have some prominence in the creative field. Now this is the horoscope of the legendary Bollywood singer Lata Mangeshkar. Hope you are aware of the of Lata Mangeshkar. And on top of it, now if you look at the her achievement, Lataji's achievement, then she is given many titles. She is called as the right queen of melody, and then Nightingale of India, voice of the millennium. she is a legendary singer. So, when you look at Lataji's life, then there are two particular things that stand out. One is that she is a legendary singer, no doubt about it. That's the one thing that should get reflected as a part of some outstanding yogas in her horoscope. That's the one thing. Second is that she remained unmarried throughout her life, despite her popularity and wealth and fame, but she remained unmarried. So that these are the two things. So when you're looking at this kind of a horoscope, and if you are able to point out these two things, that in this particular horoscope, the there is a outstanding yoga for this person to shine in the field of music, and second is that this person will remain unmarried throughout the life. So when I started looking at the Krishnamurti rule for that makes a person outstanding in the field of music, then I saw that the role of the fifth house, the sign Leo, and the role of the Neptune, the seventh house, all these things, these are all important things. And if you look at the Neptune, you see the Neptune is in this Leo 9 degrees. And if you look at Venus, Venus is in Leo in 10 degrees, right? So both are in Leo, Neptune and Venus, and they are in a very rapt conjunction. So this could be one of the rule. This could be one of the yogas, not dependent on the cuspal sublord, where we can say that in a person's horoscope, if this particular combination uh, of fifth house and the Neptune, Venus, if this combination stands out, then you can be sure that this particular horoscope belongs to a person who could have a very promising, outstanding career in some creative field. You can say some creative field. And also in one of my videos I had pointed out that the seventh house is very important for someone to get a legendary status. First house will make a person famous, but first house will not make a person a legendary. Somebody who has to become a legend in the timeline of the history, then the seventh house, the role of the seventh house has to be there. So if you look at if you look at each of these planets, then you will find that most of the planet has something to do with the seventh house. But isn't it ironical that there are many planets that has to do with the seventh house, but none of these planets were able to give marriage to Lataji's horoscope. And then again, if you look at the seventh cuspal sublord, let's just look at the sublord. So you find that the second sublord is Jupiter, seventh is also Jupiter, 11th is also Jupiter, right? And Jupiter is the Jupiter. If you look at the Jupiter signification, then you find that Jupiter is quite strong in terms of representing the seventh house and the fifth house also, both, which basically indicates a love marriage. So the cuspal, you can't possibly rely on the cuspal sublord. And then again you get into a rectification of the birth horoscope and shifting the cuspal sublord and all these things. That's a complete waste of time. So I wanted to actually discuss some more on the yogas in the Krishnamurti Paddhati, and my idea is to motivate some of you to look into the rules, the yoga rules, or start doing some experiment. You can find very exciting results within the Krishnamurti framework, not at all being dependent on the Gospel sublord. There were some more notes I had created about some more pointers that I noticed from the professor in this direction, that how to identify some of the yogas in the Krishnamurti Paddhati. But I have a conference call coming up, and so I think will have to stop this video. Maybe some other time I will continue this discussion. So hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for watching, and thanks for this abrupt ending. Sorry for the abrupt ending.